and welcome to CS1032, Information Systems and Design. In this video, I'm going to be giving a quick overview of the course, as well as diving into the course syllabus to give you an idea of how things are going to work. So CS1032 is an introduction to information systems and the role played by these systems in business. In the summer term, it's a distance studies course, which means that there's no set meeting time and everything is going to be provided online. I'm going to pre-record lectures and tutorials for you and post them each week to the course site. This means you can follow through the content of the course, the readings, the lectures at your own pace, but you still have to keep up to date with deadlines for assignments and quizzes, etc. So if this is your first time taking an online course at Western, I might recommend taking a look at the Western's Learning, Development, and Success Center. I have a link in the slide here. Should also be one on the course site and in the syllabus. And they have a few tips for how to manage your time and do online courses. So what's on the slide right here is the description of the course that can be found in the course catalog. And it mostly, unfortunately, talks about the sort of certificates it fulfills. For example, if you're in accounting, it might help satisfy some of the information technology requirements for a certified accountant, things like that. Or if you're interested in the Microsoft Office Specialist Certificate, it can fulfill or at least help you study for some of that. But that doesn't really give us a good idea of what we'll be doing and what we'll be learning in this course. And I think based on your background, you might have a little bit different perspective on what that is. For business-minded students, the idea of this course is to give you the knowledge and understanding of technology, and particularly information systems, that allow you to efficiently and effectively manage them in real life and empower you to make correct, informed decisions regarding technology. For students that lean more to the science and technology side of things, this course will help you gain an understanding of the basic business principles and how technology is used in business. Perhaps even guide you on your way to creating your own business or startup. That sounds nice and all, but what will we be actually doing in this course? Well, we can divide the content of this course into two different categories: theory and practice. Theory, which will mostly be covered by lectures and our assigned readings, will cover things like information systems, how they're developed, designed, and used, cover general business practices, as well as real-life case studies, including a few fictional ones that we follow through in the book. In practice, we'll be working with things like Word, Excel, Access, XML, ERGs, and SQL. Before we get too far into this video, I should introduce myself. That's me on the screen right now, and I'll be your instructor for CS1032. My name's Daniel Servos. I'm an assistant professor at the Computer Science Department here at Western University. And if you ever need to get in contact with me at any time during the course, feel free to drop me an email at dservos5@uwo.ca, or you can always book office hours with me. They're going to be held on Wednesdays and Thursdays. And since this is an online course, they will be offered online via Zoom. But before you can attend an office hour, you have to make an appointment. To do that, simply go to danielservos.ca/apt or click on the Office Hours tab on OWL, and you'll be able to sign up for an office hour slot. Those are going to be offered on Wednesdays and Thursdays, and to see a list of available times, follow that link. Please make sure that you make an appointment at least 12 hours in advance of when you want to have it, just so I have enough time to make sure that I'm available. So I mentioned my email, and I highly encourage you to send me an email at dservos5@uwo.ca if you have any questions about the course, the content, or your personal situation. I try to respond to emails as quickly as I can, and within at least 24 hours on business days, and 48 hours on weekends or holidays. General questions about course content or the assignment that apply to everyone should be posted on our OWL site's course forums, and that's just so other students can benefit from the answer too. Also, there's a participation component to this course, so posting on those forums can improve your participation mark. So that should be a first step, so long as your question isn't very specific to you in particular. For example, accommodations, extension requests, grades, anything that would contain private information or only be of concern to you should be sent in an email to me and not posted publicly. If you do send me an email, make sure that you send it from your @uwo.ca account and you include CS1032 in the subject line. That just lets me make sure that your email won't go to spam or get lost, and I can respond to it right away. So one last note, occasionally I will be sending announcements to the whole class via OWL. Those are posted on the OWL course site, but OWL also tends to send an email to your account when that happens. If that happens, please don't respond to that announcement directly. Instead, if you want to send me a message, type out a new email and put dservos5@uwo in the send line. The reason why is if you respond directly to the OWL announcement, sometimes it gets lost because it's not actually being sent to me, it's being sent to OWL. So we also will have 2 teaching assistants for this course, and they're going to be holding consulting hours via Zoom. You can also email them, and I'll be posting their contact information once it's available to the OWL course site. They'll have 3 hours each of consulting time, and it will be drop-in based, so you don't need to pre-book an appointment for them. It will be offered as a first-come, first-served basis, so if you come late to their office hours, or their consulting hours rather, that does mean you might have to wait in the waiting room until they're ready to get to you. So there are a few hardware and software requirements for taking this course. And one of the big ones is having a Windows-based computer. So that could be any modern Windows version. I have 10, 8, and 7 listed here, but I think Windows 11 would be fine too. And the reason for that is some of the software we're going to be using is Windows only. If you only have access to a Mac or a Linux computer, there are some options available for you that we'll get into, but if you do have a Windows computer, I highly recommend using that if it's available to you. There's also a few accessories you're going to need, and the big ones are a webcam and a microphone. So there's 2 reasons why we're going to need those, and it's fine if they're built into your laptop. The first one is for office hours and consulting hours. If you're going to be using Zoom, it's best to have a webcam and a microphone so you can talk to me or you can talk to the TAs. And the second reason is for the final exam. It's going to be all online, and it's going to use something called Proctor Track, which needs both of these to be active. And the last big hardware requirement is going to be having a reliable internet connection. So it's going to be important that that's stable for when we do quizzes and the final exam, because those will be online. So for a full list of hardware requirements, do see the course syllabus. There also are going to be a number of software requirements, and all the software is free, so you don't have to worry about expenses. The first one is going to be Microsoft Office 365. That's free if you're a Western student. And the big things we're going to be using from that are Word, Excel, and Access. And Access is the reason why we have that Windows requirement, because it's only available on Windows computers. And unfortunately, there isn't really an alternative for Mac OS. But like I said, there are a few options that we'll get into. You're also going to need a plain text editor. You can use Notepad++ if you're on Windows. And brackets can also be used on Windows, but it can also be used on other operating systems. And we're going to be using an ER diagram tool called Dia Diagram Editor. That's available for free, so is Notepad and brackets. And of course, you're going to need a browser to access the course website and things like that. Recommended is Firefox and Chrome, because I've tested those and know that they work with OWL and our e-textbook. I also highly, highly recommend that you have some sort of backup service like OneDrive, Dropbox, or something like that, so that you have remote backups of your assignments. And I do believe that OneDrive offers some free amount of space to Western students. So if you have any questions about how to install any of the software or how to get it for free, I do have a tutorial on installing the required software. So if you have any questions about that, do first take a look at that tutorial video. And if that doesn't help you out, feel free to send me an email and I can help you out. So as I mentioned a few times, Access is not available on macOS, but we do have a few options for you. The best one would be to get access to a Windows PC, but we also have the Gen Labs. If you're on campus or in London, all Western students should be able to access a general lab, also called Gen Lab, and they have everything you need installed. Access, Excel, Dia Diagram Editor, all of the software we need for this course. If you're outside of London, that's okay. There is a third option, and that is using something called MyLab. And basically what happens there is it lets you connect to a virtual Windows computer on campus here. And that can be used from anywhere in the world, and it can be used from a Mac computer, a Linux computer, or even a Windows computer. However, it does require a reliable internet connection and it can be a bit unstable, so I'd only recommend using that option if you have a Mac computer and you can't make it to campus. So for MyLab, it is a bit complicated to get set up, So I do have another video tutorial about how to install that and how to get it working, but please don't bother with that if you have a Windows-based computer. Just install Access, it's free, and it works fine for you on Windows. Next, let's talk a little bit about our textbook. And that looks something like this. It's Experiencing MIS, Management Information Systems, 5th Canadian edition. So for most of you, you won't be getting the physical text, but instead we'll be purchasing the e-text. That's sort of an electronic textbook that you can access through your web browser. So to do that, or to purchase it rather, you can visit the bookstore, either online or in person, and they should be able to sell you an access code. Or alternatively, you can just buy it directly from Pearson using the Pearson MyLab link. I would personally recommend that you buy it directly from Pearson because it's a few dollars cheaper, and it's a little bit less hassle than going to the bookstore, getting an access code, and then putting it into the Pearson website. So when you do register for the e-text, whether you're using an access code from the bookstore or you're going directly to Pearson, you do need to know my course code. This isn't the same as CS1032, it's a special one just for Pearson, and that is Servos 20435. And providing that to Pearson, just make sure they register you in the correct course. So this could be a bit confusing, so I do have a tutorial video about how to purchase this textbook and get signed up for the right course. One note is this textbook does come with something called MyLab MIS. The MyLab MIS component is sometimes optional, sometimes it's sold separately. For example, if you have the physical text. I highly recommend getting MyLab MIS. It basically includes a bunch of practice quizzes, practice assignments, and even some auto-grading tools to evaluate those practice work for you. And it is a great way to study for the quizzes and the exam, so I highly recommend getting it if you're able to. The e-text itself is required as there will be assigned readings. So once again, how this text is going to be used. The textbook or the e-text is required for the course. The online MyLab MIS component is optional, but highly recommended. And I should point out that MyLab is completely different than MyVLab. MyLab MIS is that tool for our textbook that has the practice quizzes and homework, whereas MyVLab is a tool just for Mac users to access a Windows computer. Fortunately, their names are somewhat similar. So if you have a physical copy of the textbook, in some cases you might be able to purchase the MyLab MIS component separately, but for most of you, they'll be bundled together, so you don't have to worry about that. If for some reason you want a physical copy of the text, you can purchase a physical copy from Pearson, but I believe they require you purchase the e-text copy first, and then they'll send you a discounted physical copy for some price after that. Pearson also offers alternative formats for accessibility reasons. If you have some sort of special need for a different format, please do contact disability.support@pearson.com, and they might be able to arrange for alternative versions for you that might work better for your situation. So there's two important sites that we need to be aware of. First one is OWL, that's Western's Learning Management System, and the second one is MyLab MIS. OWL, which you might already be familiar with, is the site that we're going to post all the course content to. So it's going to have links to the syllabus, it's going to have slides, assignments, our course forms, it's going to list the weekly readings, linked videos, announcements, supplementary resources, quizzes, and the final exam. All of that's going to be done through OWL. So it's very important that you stay up to date with the OWL site and check it regularly. I try to update it every week, so make sure that at least once a week that you're checking it, looking at the due dates for things, and have a good understanding of what's going on and keeping up with the course content. The second site is MyLab MIS, and this is how you access your e-textbook. So you do need the e-textbook, but the other features of this site are optional, and they're going to be things like the ungraded homework that's great for practicing for the quizzes and the assignment, additional knowledge exercises and extensions, and study aids. And the course code you're going to need for that is, once again, Servos 20435. So if you have any questions about how to use these sites, I once again have another tutorial video that quickly goes over how to use them and access the information you're going to need. So one thing I like to do is give students an idea of the time requirements this course is going to take up. So you should treat it like an in-person course in terms of how much time you should commit to it each week. So there's going to be about 3 hours of video lectures or video tutorials each week. That amount can be a little bit higher, a little bit less, but on average, it'll be about 3 hours of video to watch. There's going to be assigned readings each week. That's going to be about 2 chapters from your text each week. How long that will change a bit depending on how fast a reader you are or how slowly you like to go through it to digest the information. I'd say you should budget at least 2 hours for that. There's MyLab Homework. Each week, I'm going to list some optional ungraded homework just to help you keep up with the course content and sort of study for the quizzes and the final exam as you go. I would say it's about 1 to 2 hours a week, but it's really up to you since that's an optional component. And in terms of assignments and quizzes, there's going to be 5 assignments, 4 quizzes, and that works out to about one every other week. So you'd have assignment one week, and then you might have a quiz the next week, but they'll never be on the same week. So now the part you're probably most interested in or looking forward to is how you're going to be evaluated. So there's going to be 5 assignments worth 35%, 4 online quizzes done via OWL worth 15%, there'll be an online participation component worth 10%, and a final exam worth 40%. And in a few minutes, we'll get into each one of those. But first, there's an important note here. To be eligible to obtain a passing mark in this course, your final exam grade must be at least 40% or higher. If it's under that, you won't get a passing grade in the course. You also have to actually show that you've participated in terms of submitting assignments and doing the quizzes. So you have to have a non-zero grade on at least 3 assignments. That means you have to have submitted them and get some grade above 0, and you have to have at least submitted 2 of the 4 quizzes with any grade. So let's talk a little bit about assignments. Shown on the screen right now are the tentative assignment schedule. These due dates could change a little bit, and if they do, there will be an announcement of it. But right now, this is what we're planning. So once again, there's 5 assignments. Each one of them is going to be worth 7%, adding up to that 35%. The first one's going to be on Microsoft Excel, then database design, then Microsoft Access, XML documents, and then queries in SQL. The due date is always going to be by midnight on these days. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the late policy. It's expected that students budget enough time to properly submit their assignments, and that you have to take into account for things like unforeseen technology issues. That midnight due date is a hard deadline. It's also expected that you are regularly backing up your assignments and submitting well before any deadline to allow for any unforeseen circumstances. But I understand that things happen, so I will be giving everyone what I call late coupons, specifically 4 late coupons. So what these do is they allow you to submit an assignment up to 1 day late for each coupon without any kind of penalty. So if you're late by 1 day, you can use one of your late coupons, and there won't be any penalty for that. After you've used up all your late coupons, then it's automatically 0 after midnight on that due date. So late coupons will be applied automatically by the teaching assistant marking your assignment, so you don't have to do anything about them, but you should keep an eye on how many you have left, and that should be recorded in the OWL gradebook. One other note is on one assignment, you can't use more than 3 coupons. So an assignment can't be more than 3 days late, or you get 0. So in terms of mark adjustments, if you get the assignment back, they are marked by the TAs, not myself. If there's something you don't agree with in the marking, you should first contact the TA who marked your assignment. It should say it on the mark sheet who marked it. And if your discussion with them isn't satisfactory, then you can bring your concerns to me. But make sure that you do bring up your concerns within 1 week of receiving the assignment mark back, because after that date, the marks will be final. And I should note that this marking adjustment can't be for any reason. It has to be for a clear error the TA made in marking your assignment. You can't just say, I want this remarked. You have to say, I think the TA made a mistake here, talk to them, but they didn't agree. Can you please take a look at it? So I did mention the MyLab homework. This is going to be different little mini quizzes and Excel assignments and Access assignments that come from the MyLab component of your textbook. It's ungraded and not required, but I will be listing what I recommend you try each week, but it's up to you whether you want to complete that or not. So next up is quizzes, and there are going to be 4 of them, and they're going to be weighted equally, about 3.75% each. These will all be conducted online, done via OWL, the Western's learning management system. and they are going to not be comprehensive. So they're only going to cover certain chapters that are listed up there in the table. They're going to have multiple choice questions such as true or false or pick from a list, as well as auto-graded questions like fill in the blank and matching, maybe matching a definition to a term, for example. They might be a little bit different format than what you're used to. Rather than everyone taking the quiz at the same time, they're going to be posted on a certain date, for example, a Monday, and they'll be due by another date, by, for example, a Friday. During that time range, you'll have to start the quiz sometime, and you'll be given a set time to finish it after you started it. So, for example, if it was posted on a Monday, you could wait till Wednesday to start it, but once you actually start the quiz, you'll only have about an hour or so to complete it. The exact amount of time will be different for each quiz, based on the amount of content. So these quizzes will also be different in that you can redo each quiz at most one time, and the highest grade will be counted. They'll be open book, but you have to do them individually. And even though you can redo the quiz, the questions will be mostly drawn from a large question bank, so they'll be a little bit different the next time you do it. So you can't just memorize the questions. There's not going to be any makeup for these quizzes since there's a long range. So do make sure that you get them started in that time range, because after the due date, if you haven't completed the quiz, it's going to be a 0 grade. So you might be thinking, well, that's pretty easy. I have this long range I can do them in, and I can redo them each once, and they're open book. And you're right. The point isn't to be a hard test on you. Rather, it's to make sure that you're keeping up with the course content and getting ready to study for that final exam. Because our final exam will be different. You won't be able to have an open book, and you won't be able to redo it. So do make sure that you try hard on the quizzes and not sort of try to cheese them a bit by using the book too much, because these are meant to be a studying aid and a way to encourage you to interact with the content. Moving on to participation. So as I mentioned, this course has a 10% participation component. And you might be asking, why do participation in an online course? Why do it in a computer science course? Well, the reason why is evidence-based. Current evidence and research into teaching has shown that active learning benefits students even in computer science and online courses, and can significantly contribute to your ability to learn and retain the information. And there's a few citations up here that sort of back that up. Also, computer science and business are highly collaborative fields. In the real world, you'll be expected to work with others on complex problems and communicate effectively. So I want to sort of simulate that and reinforce that in this course as well. So how will that work? Well, the video lectures and tutorials will occasionally have tasks for you to do that may require you to post on the forums, such as responses, or take a quick quiz or do some other activity. These tasks will be clearly indicated in the videos, and they'll have a point value associated with them. But these tasks are only going to be listed in the videos. The reason for that is to encourage you to watch them. For example, at the end of this video, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself on the course forums, and that will have a certain participation point value associated with it. So how will it be graded? Well, each activity is going to be graded based on completion. That means as long as you follow the task correctly and complete it in a meaningful way, that you'll get the full participation points for that activity. The number of participation points you have at the end of the course will determine your participation grade. In a few seconds, we'll take a look at how many participation points equals what grade. But each week, there's going to be at least 150 participation points that can be earned based on activities that are listed in the videos. But in addition to those 150 points, you can also earn extra points by being helpful in the course forums. So what does being helpful mean? That could be asking useful questions, ones that haven't been answered already. Could mean answering other students' questions, or it could be posting resources that you found that are relevant to the course, or even your own little mini tutorials. And that's for earning extra participation points beyond the activities listed in the course. I recommend checking out the course syllabus as it has full details on how you would earn those and what qualifies. Participation points will be calculated for you and what grade that would correspond to halfway through the course and at the end of the course before the final exam. Halfway through the course, so you have an idea of how you're doing and can improve it, and right before the final exam, so you have an idea of what kind of grade you're going to need on the final to pass the course. So this table here shows the number of participation points corresponding to what level or what grade out of 10%. So if we look here at level 7, that means you would need 1,800 participation points. That sounds like a lot, but once again, I said that there's 150 points available for each week, plus you can earn extras. And level 7 is important here because if you complete all of those 150 point tasks every single week, you can get up to level 7 without ever posting on the course forums beyond what's required in those tasks. To get a full grade, level 10, you would have to do all the weekly tasks, as well as post a few things on the course forums that are helpful as defined in the course syllabus. There is also a level 11 here, which is going to be harder to achieve, but if you do manage to get a significant number of points beyond 2,200, there will be a small bonus added to your final grade, not more than 2%, and it will be based on how far you go beyond the 2,200. I should mention that to get to a certain level, you do have to get over the points listed here. So for level 7, you need 1,800. If you had 1,799, you'd still be level 6, 6%. So it sort of works like XP in a video game. You have to actually get over the required amount to get up to that next level. I know that could be a little bit confusing, the participation, so I do recommend reading the course syllabus as it defines it quite well. And as always, if you have any questions about anything in the course, feel free to email me about it. Or post on the course forums for something general like that, and you could start earning some of those participation points. So now on to the final exam. So the final exam is going to be conducted online on OWL, sort of like a quiz, but much longer. It's not going to be open book, it's going to be closed book, and it will be using some software called ProctorTrack, which is used in addition to OWL. We'll be going much more in depth on how you use ProctorTrack and get it set up when we get closer to the final exam period. The final exam will be held in the final exam period for the summer term. They haven't scheduled that date yet, but as soon as I know it, I'll announce it to the class. So the final exam is going to be all multiple choice and auto-graded questions. So that could be things like true and false, pick an answer from a list, but it could also include things like fill in the blank, like a number or a short word or things like that. And it could also be matching questions, sort of like matching a word to a definition, things like that. There will always be things that the site itself could grade. So ProctorTrack is going to have a few requirements, so you'll have to have these available for the exam. There'll be a webcam, a microphone, this could be built into your laptop, that's fine, and a reliable internet connection. And I'd also add on a nice quiet place to do it in your house that's not going to have other people in it. And once again, you do have to meet these webcam, microphone requirements, etc. to take this course. And for the final exam, while it is closed book and you have to do it by yourself, I am going to allow a one-page cheat sheet. And I'll talk a lot more about the final exam and the policies once we get there. So now I should address how you can get help in the course. So you might be working on an assignment and you start getting an error message when we're working maybe on XML, and you just have no idea how to solve the problem. So I'd like you to follow these steps in order. It's important that they're done in order to try to solve the issue. So first, we should check the course content, the notes, readings, tutorials related to the assignment we're working on. So if this was an XML assignment, we'd take a look at the XML notes, the XML videos, and things like that. If you still can't find your answer, you'd look at the course forums. Maybe someone else has posted about this. Maybe someone else had the same issue. If that doesn't work, you could try Google or the Microsoft Office documentation. Microsoft Office has quite detailed documentation about errors and things like that. That'd be useful for Excel and Access. And Google is always quite useful. If you have an error message from any kind of program, typing it into Google will start getting you a good idea of what could be going wrong. If those don't work, then post on the OWL forums. That could also get you participation points if no one's posted about that before, and it's a good question. If that doesn't work, usually it will, because I'll be keeping a close eye on the course forums and respond to you. But if for some reason that doesn't work, or it's more personal just to your assignment, you could then move on to asking a TA for their email, what their contact information will be posted on the OWL site soon, or going to a TA consulting hours. If that doesn't work, you can email me, and finally, you can schedule an office hour with me. One thing I should mention about posting to the course forums, it's fine to post general questions about assignments, like I'm getting this error message, what could be the cause of it? Or I wasn't clear on what this part of the assignment means or what it wants me to do. That's fine. But you should never post your actual solutions to the OWL forums. If you have something that you need to send to demonstrate the problem you're having, for example, like a copy of your XML document, a copy of your database, a copy of your Excel spreadsheet, that should always be done through email to a TA or an email to me. Next, we have to talk a little bit about academic dishonesty and scholastic offenses. It's not something I enjoy getting into, but it is required that I at least discuss it a little bit with you. So this course does have some rules about how we do assignments and quizzes in the final exam, and those are all individual activities. So you shouldn't be sharing your assignment answers, your quiz answers, and definitely not exam answers with anyone else, and these should all be activities that you do on your own. If you happen to hire an outside tutor, that's fine for studying purposes, but they shouldn't be helping you with assignments, quizzes, or the final exam beyond studying before them. If you're ever sending your assignment answers to someone else, a tutor, a friend, basically anyone that is not me or a TA, that could be considered academic dishonesty or a scholastic offense of some kind. For example, when we're working on Excel assignments, those Excel answers for your assignment should never go to anyone else. They should never leave your computer. So once again, regardless of who you're sending it to, it could never go to anyone else other than me or a TA. So don't have a tutor helping you with the assignments. And all of these assignments are going to be submitted to automatic plagiarism detection. And that is getting quite advanced now. It's going beyond Turnitin. And we do have stuff that actually checks the metadata in things like Excel, Office files, Access databases, can actually drive the history of the file, who it's been sent to, who's made changes to it, even printers that it's printed to, things like that. And it can give quite a detailed history of where that file's been. So these days it is quite easy to track if a file has been sent from one person to another and so on. So I do ask you to try to look in the rules for this course. I have a file posted called A Discussion on Academic Dishonesty. Please read that over. It should be on the Week 1 tab, and make sure that you don't violate any of those rules. It's not fun for anyone when that kind of case comes up. It takes a lot of time on my part. It would take up a lot of your time and concern. So it's best if we avoid these situations already. I try to provide all the tools that you'll need, lots of opportunities for help, such as TA consulting, my office hours, and I even set up quizzes and things to try to make it less stressful and easy for you to succeed in this course. So please do budget your time appropriately and make sure that you're never falling into a category like this. So where should you go from here? So on the Week 1 tab, and for all the weeks that will be posted in the future, there always is a nice little to-do checklist that is not graded if you check those boxes, but it does give you a good list of tasks. So always look at the week tabs for content every week and follow the tasks that it asks you to do. For this first week, it's going to be things like reading the course syllabus. This did do a quick summary of it, but didn't cover everything, so make sure you read it and understand it. You should get set up with your e-textbook. Make sure you've purchased it and have it ready to go. There's an option for a 14-day trial for the e-text if you're not sure if you want to continue with this course or not, so there's no harm in getting it set up right away. And you should install the required software and introduce yourself on the course forums. In terms of readings for Week 1, there's that discussion on academic dishonesty that I mentioned, as well as we should start by reading Chapter 1 of the text. Once again, the Week 1 tab and all the future week tabs will show you what the readings are going to be for each week. There's lecture videos. There's going to be Introduction to Business and the Chapter 1 lecture. You should watch those this week. And then there's that optional MyLab homework. In this case, there'd be 2 practice quizzes, the warm-up quiz and a video quiz. Now, I did mention that there were going to be some participation tasks. So the first one is to introduce yourself on the OWL course forums in the student introductions topic. The way this is set up, and most of the responses will be set up, is that you can't view what other students have posted in this forum until you've made a post yourself. So this will be worth 50 participation points. I'd like you to mention your preferred name, what program you're in, why you're interested in taking this course, and maybe just something general about yourself, like maybe a hobby or an interest you have. The next participation activity is going to be to take the practice quiz on OWL. So this isn't going to be marked on what you score on the quiz. Rather, I just want to see that you've actually attempted it. And this idea behind this is simply just to get you used to doing quizzes on OWL. We're going to have 4 OWL quizzes coming up throughout the course. And we're also going to be using that kind of system to do our final exam. So it's important that you understand how it works. So this practice quiz is just going to be talking about things in the course syllabus. Once again, the grade doesn't matter that you get on it as long as you attempted. This grade for this practice quiz isn't going to be in your quiz section. It's not part of your quiz mark. Rather, it's going to be worth 50 participation points, which are done or given to you as long as you have completed that quiz with any grade before the end of the course. And lastly, there's going to be some discussion question. I'm not going to give you the full details on it yet. That's in the chapter 1 video. The reason why I'm not going to give you the full details is because I want you to read or watch rather that video and see what it is for yourself. So that's all I have for you in this introduction video. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. Be happy to discuss anything about the course with you. Otherwise, you can start moving on to those tasks, such as reading the course syllabus and watching the other videos. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.